What is up, geeks and geekettes? It's another episode of the Countdown to the Geekcast. My name is Ted, aka Steady. Joining me as always, the man behind the magic, you know him as Joe Garcia.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Good to be back here on the Countdown City Geekcast, talking all the geekly headlines and everything else that's going on in the geek world with you guys. And to my fellow beer drinker Matty B. It's that time, brother.
You know what it is. You know what it is.
Oh my
And
gosh.
Ted, give me my intro.
Here he comes, here he comes. And on remote, out of Houston right now, the one and only Matty B.
Coming to you live from Houston, Texas, guys. It's been a huge week of geek news, I would say, in the form of DC news. And I'm excited to talk a little bit about Willow because I know Joe is he's very gung ho on Willow right now. And so I'd love to talk to him about it and see what his thoughts are. So I'm excited about today's show.
Absolutely. If you're in the chat, say what's up. What do you got going on? What are the biggest stories that you saw this week? Drop those in the chat so we could talk about those. But for sure, we had a great show for you guys. We're going to be talking about the premiere of Willow on the Disney Plus streaming service. We're also going to be continuing our DC Titans talk. We're on episode 6 right now. If you were with us last week, I think we've jumped the shark. We know exactly where we're going, and it's not exactly pretty. But first, we're going to be talking about the Geeky Weekly Headlines, and a bunch actually got added because there's a whole slew of things that got announced just in the last few hours. This is a really weird afternoon. So many things are coming out at the same time. The first of which we're actually just going to touch on briefly. You know what? Actually, I have to quickly mention that we are still in the early stage of the nationwide Ghostbusters toy drive. Yes, the Ghostbusters toy drive. You might have seen a post over the weekend. It was on Saturday. I'll repost it later on this week. But we have close to 40 chapters of Ghostbusters franchises across the country that are all holding charity events and toy drives in their local communities. And we want you folks at home to go to that post, find the Ghostbuster chapter nearest you, and find out where you can donate toys, goods, clothing items, canned foods. They're asking for a number of things, and it's your opportunity to make a huge difference. There's so many organizations that they are supporting in this effort, and as I mentioned, it is a massive campaign. 40 chapters across the country. That's hundreds of Ghostbusters, Ghostbuster fans, all coming together for one great cause. And I'm going to talk to you about the Ghostbusters of San Antonio and what we're doing in our own hometown. Please donate new toys today through December 21st. We have 3 locations for you. The first of which is the Dragon's Lair at Alamo Ranch. It's on the northwest side of town. I'll post more information. You can also go to Ghostbusters of San Antonio, or SATX, to get all that information. We also have a donation box at the GameStop in the Selma location. That's what's a shopping center, gentlemen? It's not the Rim.
No, it's like the Selma shops or it's something like that.
No, Joe.
Uh,
What's the big shopping center on the 35 and 1604?
Um,
it's got the Target there, right?
the rim.
No, it's not the Rim. Rim is I-10. I'll
Unless
figure it
you're
out in a second.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. And
We'll figure it out.
honestly, at this point in the toy drive, you'd be hard pressed, no matter where you are in the country, no matter where you're watching this from, to not find a Ghostbusters toy drive near you. We are everywhere right now. So, Ted, can we make it a point to, during the stream or after the stream, to share all of the groups that are involved in the cities that they're in to make sure that everybody who's watching this can see just how many people are involved in this? We want to get 50,000 toys, folks, and we only have about 2.5 weeks left to do so. And I think we're doing pretty good so far, but we need the push from everyone. We need everyone involved. And if you have any unwrapped toys, if you see any of these locations and you're stopping into a Target and you were just going in for toilet paper or whatever it might be, grab a toy and throw it in the bucket and help us out on this drive.
Absolutely. We also have a third donation box that's going to be at the Jefferson Community Church, sort of on the central side of town. And this is going to benefit two organizations in San Antonio. The first of which is the Big Brothers Big Sisters of South Texas. The second one is the Child Advocates of San Antonio. It is an organization that supports kids that are on the welfare program. So two great organizations and plenty of ways for you guys to help. Thanks to everybody who came over the weekend to both locations and dropped off toys. We even did a video with General Kenobi's bunker, Jose himself, who dropped off a number of awesome items. And we will also be posting more times and dates where you can actually come out, shake hands with the Ghostbusters of San Antonio, and take some photos with us, as well as the Ecto that we have that we drive around. So plenty of ways to find us, plenty of ways to get in touch with local chapters in your own community. It is the hashtag Ghostbusters Toy Drive. Once again, there's a post in our timeline. So keep scrolling till you find it, that lists all the chapters and the cities and the states that they're in. So find the one nearest you, and let's make this a tremendous success. So that way we can benefit thousands of families across this country this holiday season. The Ghostbusters Toy Drive, and been very it's been very exciting seeing all the videos, all the photos from everybody. We've had some groups post some really cool numbers and done some really amazing things. So can't wait to see more. Kevin's in the house. He also wants me to know that his slime blower is complete, fantastic. He said he'll send me an image. I'll check that out in a second. Paxton's in the house. Welcome, welcome, Pac-Man from the South Dakota Ghostbusters. Those guys are awesome. Our buddy Rick Kane is here. He is over 2,000 jerseys, hockey jerseys, on his way to 3,000. Way to go, Rick. Way to go, sir. Again, you need to get that museum opened ASAP. All right, to some other geeky headlines. This one is near and dear to our hearts. Deadline is reporting that Ghostbusters Afterlife co-writer Gil Keenan will actually be the one to sit in the director's chair for the sequel, which is tentatively titled Firehouse. I already told the guys we're not going to talk too much about this because we don't really know maybe enough to make any big judgment calls or anything like that. But I am really interested to hear, Maddie, your just initial reaction to hearing this.
I don't like it. I don't love it. But this is the curse of success in Hollywood. Jason Reitman restored a potential billion-dollar franchise. And because of that, he's being pulled in a million directions and being thrown offers from everywhere. And so he said, I'm going to take a producer role. I'm going to step aside and co-produce this and co-write this movie. And I don't love it. Gil Keenan's IMDb is not the best. His track record doesn't have the best movies involved. Some of those involve Monster House, Scream 2016. I think there's only about 8 on there. So I really don't like the franchise being handed off this early. So I'm going to reserve some of my comments to see what might come out between now and Wednesday on Ghost Test Radio. But that's where I'm at right now with it.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Joe, any thoughts on this news? I know you probably don't follow the Ghostbusters franchises closely, but your thoughts about Gil stepping in instead of the director from Afterlife, which was Jason Reitman.
Well, we learned anything from reboots here is that you want to go ahead and keep the director who starts this reboot intact because they know a direction that they want to go. And fans were very, let's say, excited when they announced that Jason Reitman was going to be directing the new Ghostbusters film, Afterlife, at the time. And now that you're going to get a sequel entitled Firehouse, you would think that that same director, Jason Reitman, would be the one to go ahead and direct. If we learned anything from the Star Wars franchise, if you don't have a clear direction and you're just going ahead and getting different directors to direct films, it doesn't necessarily bode well uh, when you see the final product. And I just hope that this uh, goes in a different direction as far as it still being a continuation of this story with all the beloved characters that everyone has grown fond of, including myself, because I love watching the Ghostbusters films. You know, I'm a fan of that, and I just want to see it have its have it done in the right manner to go ahead and give the series its just desserts and the respect that it deserves. Because a lot of
Yeah.
fans were excited to have to have it come back and then be on the big screen because with a lot of the younger generation, this is the parents now kind of passing the love for the franchise onto their children. So it's a big pivotal point in this film franchise for parents with younger kids. So I just want to see it done the right way. That's my thing.
I am very intrigued by this announcement, and I know that maybe the initial reaction is a negative one, but I want to say, and I want to just kind of wait and see what happens, because for Jason to kind of step out of the way, it could be that somebody's calling and asking him to do other things that are outside of the Ghostbusters franchise. But what if it's not? Ghost Core is now has its own production division within Sony Pictures, and they probably see what the potential is. You have franchises that are trying to do everything. You have Marvel, DC, Star Wars, Transformers. They're just going above and beyond number of projects in a variety of different ways. And so what if this actually means something else? What if Jason's actually trying to put something else out there that might be even bigger than a sequel to Afterlife? Oh
I
no,
don't
Ted,
know.
what are you talking about? I don't know, but I just feel like Jason's not taking too big of a step away from this. He's too invested. He's too invested. It doesn't feel like he's trying to pull away from it. I think, if anything, he's trying to make himself a little more available for everything else that's happening,
I
because
don't know, Ted. I think that's
he
the
is
fanboy in you wanting to
he
read more into it.
he's in charge of this division, though. He's in charge of this Ghost Core division. It's him, it's Gil, it's probably Dan in a number of ways. Dan Aykroyd's probably also has some sort of a role as a consultant or producer in this division of Sony Pictures, and Jason just probably needs to make himself available because there are other things. There are other things that might need more from him, and his friend Gil Keenan is probably more than capable. I know you mentioned Monster House on that list of things that Gil's done. I love Monster House. What's
Yeah,
wrong
we
with
Ted,
Monster
Ted,
House?
Ted, you like a lot of stuff, but what I'm
There's
saying,
also I like a lot of good stuff.
no, you like a lot of stuff. A lot
Hate
of
me,
stuff you like is
hate
good.
me.
You like a lot of stuff. A lot of
Thank
stuff
you.
you like
A
is
lot of
good,
stuff that I like is good.
but
Thank you.
it's
That's a
not
compliment. I'll
everything.
take it.
But here's
We
what I'm
talk
gonna
about a million things that I don't
Ted,
like.
Ted, I'm going to
We're
propose to
doing it
you
later today.
exactly why I'm thinking the way I'm thinking, but I
Yeah.
want to save this for Wednesday. Okay.
Ooh, save it.
All I'm going to say is, what did what do you think Jason thought of the reception of Ghostbusters 2?
He I don't
Do you, do,
I
do,
don't
do, do you think
know.
he really loved how Ghostbusters 2 was perceived, considering that he starred in that film at a very ripe and awkward age, in that early scene there with the Ghostbusters. I don't think he wanted to make a sequel to this because he saw what a sequel did last time, and he was directly involved with it last time, and his dad was directly involved with it last time, and he knows what sequels bring. And I just think that I love the hopeful optimist in you. I do. I That's the reason why you're one of my good friends. I just think that this stinks. Like
Number
I don't want the pressure of having to follow up. because I saw what happened when my dad had to try to follow up. And I'm going to take this opportunity now that has been handed to me for restoring a potential $1 billion franchise. And I'm going to hand that off. And when you do that, we saw 2016 Scream. I don't want this to turn into what we're going to talk about here in a little bit, and that's the Titan series or something like that, where all of a sudden we have this team of Ghostbusters who's they're just not acting like we knew, and so that's where I'm at with it. But we'll see what happens between now and Wednesday.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, this isn't me being an optimist. What I'm saying is there's more to the story that we need to hear about. Jason's just not sitting in a comfy office chair twiddling his thumbs. There's a ton of things that are getting done
Yeah,
behind the scenes.
he's working on Avatar 4 with James Cameron.
Is that so?
I mean, who knows? He's doing other things.
There you go. We will wait to hear back with more. In other news, the Flash movie has moved its release date once again, but no, it's not as bad as you might think it might be. It's actually moving up. The Flash film will now drop on June 16th, not June 23rd. So that's moving up a week. And for those of you keeping track, this is what your June month is going to look like next year. Let's just say save your money because your pockets are going to be empty come next summer. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse will be dropping June 2nd. Transformers, the next sequel to the Bumblebee film, June 9th. The Flash movie, June 16th. And The Return of Indy, June 30th. Now, the Flash moving isn't necessarily a bad thing. They're probably trying to stay away from Indiana Jones. With maybe they're trying to figure out would be a bigger movie that also gives them an additional week after the Flash to hopefully bring into more box office. Also, IMAX screens are kind of there's not a lot to go around, right? So each of these films is going to get a week of IMAX screens across the country, which brings in a lot of money. The Flash gets an additional weekend because it's going to have nobody right after it. And then Indiana Jones takes over. So that's probably another reason why they moved up just a week. And if there's any more movement, I wouldn't be surprised at all. All of these movies are with different companies except for Across the Spider Verse and Indiana Jones, which are both owned by Disney. So we'll see what happens. If anything else moves, wouldn't be surprised. But the Flash is moved up a week, and if you guys been following us over the weekend, there was a promotional photo that dropped, and here it is. You've seen the trailers, you've seen the promo pics, and now this is the first sort of drawn promotional photo, and it features two different Barry Allens, and one of these suits should look very familiar. Maddie or Joe, your thoughts on the Flash film? Have you lost all interest because it's been too long, or is there still some anxiousness there? Are you still hoping for a pretty decent movie?
I've kind of lost interest because they've been just holding on to it and backing, pushing the date back, and delays and whatnot. Then all the stuff going on with Ezra Miller, and the change now with Discovery, and DC, that kind of thing going on as well. I mean, at this point, I'm done. I don't have high expectations for the film. I just think it's a product that they already finished, and they just want to try to recoup some of the money that they've spent on the film. But as far as it being good and me being excited to see it, I don't have any expectations of it, and I'm not really excited to see it in the theaters. I think I'm gonna just pass on it. That's just me being
Ooh.
honest.
All right,
Mm.
all right. Maddie, what about you?
I I have some interesting takes here. I think that this image that you have on screen here is intentional. I think that if you go back to the previous image of their summer slate, if you will, um, DC is going for it on 4th and 1. They're saying, "Hey, we're down. and we need to throw a touchdown here. So they're going to load up the box, and they're going for it on 4th and 1. That's what it's looking like here.
But their quarterback's Matt Ryan.
Yeah, well, that doesn't matter because he's handing it off
Shots
anyway.
fired.
But it doesn't matter because he's handing it off anyway. Great analogy, Joe. The quarterback is handing it off, and this Flash movie is not being released. And in fact, I want to know, with each of these push dates of the Flash movie, the court records are publicly available, correct? If
Right.
you're being charged in court, they should be available. Each one of these pushbacks, I would say, probably corresponds directly with the court date. And I don't think this movie will ever be released because Ezra Miller is going to be found guilty on the charges he's been found on, which aren't that bad. But there's going to be extra investigations and civil lawsuits to follow on the other things that he's been accused of. This movie is not releasing. This image that was released here is exactly what I'm talking about. They are switching the Flash. The Flash movie is done. And unlike Joe, I am very intrigued to see what was in this Ezra Miller movie. If it released tomorrow, I would go watch it immediately. Not because I want to support Ezra Miller or anything like that. There has to be something in this movie, and I've been saying it for a long time. There has to be something in this movie that is so good that the studios have put their neck out for it this long. It just has to be the case. All of these pushbacks, I bet you anything correspond directly with court dates. And this movie is we're never going to see this movie. And if we do, it'll be a director's cut a few years later. Flash is getting replaced altogether.
It's going to get replaced by Matty B.
No, but I mean, maybe because I'm fast as hell. I am pretty fast. I'll race anybody in the chat. But I think that this is just, it's all James Gunn setting up what's going to be happening. I think he's incredibly smart with the way that he's doing things. And this is a subliminal message that the Flash that you've been expecting is not going to be the one that you get. And just trust me. I think that's what he's saying here with this image.
So this image actually follows suit with a lot of the fan theories, because in the teaser, the only teaser that we got, there is a Ezra Miller in a red painted suit, sort of a DIY, really shoddy makeup of a suit, and it's actually red paint over an '89 Batman suit. And so if you look really closely to this picture, the suit on the right is the '89 suit, slightly different in a lot of ways, but it's the cowl with the ears cut off. It's the Batman emblem in the center of the chest. It's the ab plates from the. It actually might be the return suit. Actually, it's a return suit, because the logo was a little simplified from the returns one. General Kenobi's in the chat. Hello there, he says. Hello, Jose. How's it going, sir? Paxton says Grant will take over the Flash. Kevin Quinn, I can't forget about this. Kevin Quinn says the Lansing Ghostbusters will do a toy drive next year for sure, but this year they've already planned to do a food drive on the 15th. Check out the Lansing Ghostbusters to get that information on where they're going to be at. Paxton says with the passing of Jason, with Ivan passing, maybe Jason does have a higher role with the cartoons and the comics or whatever else they're planning. And then Legacy of Nerd, I'm more excited about seeing Joe's hair for the first time. It is so wavy and luscious. Maybe he's born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline.
No.
Let's see.
I got to be honest with you guys. I prepared very well for this Houston trip. I prepared to be here and be live with you guys, even though I'm remote. But my microphone is straight up dying.
Is it
I
really?
don't know. Yeah,
You're not going to make it. All right. Turn it off when you're not talking.
All right, I'm gonna go as long as I can. But if I suddenly drop,
yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, no, leave the mic off when you're not talking. Hopefully, it's not too distracting. But yeah, we'll keep moving on here. So the Flash film moved up a week. This photo is out there if you want to take a closer look at it. It's on our timeline. at Countdown to the Geekcast on Facebook. And is there anything else really pressing to touch on right now? Pay attention really closely to the Game Awards this Thursday, December 8th. The announcement we kind of got wind of early on, and then Star Wars decided to confirm it this morning. The new sequel, Jedi Survivor, is actually going to be teased. We'll get a trailer or possibly gameplay on December 8th during the Game Awards, which we'll see what we can do there. I love watching the Game Awards. It's so damn fun. We usually post along with it. And so pay attention. Check out our channel Thursday, December 8th. We'll see what we can do um, in relation to the Game Awards. That should be a lot of fun. I'm excited. All right, let's move on to our topics of the day. The first of which is gonna be the Willow premiere. The Willow premiere, which is out on Disney Plus, the streaming service. If you haven't seen it yet, here's your opportunity to pause this video now. I don't think there's a whole lot to. Well, there might be some spoilers, but in reality, there's not a ton of things that have happened. We're only 2 episodes in, so if you haven't seen it yet and you want to hold off, pause this video now. Come back after you've seen it. And Kevin, the slime blower looks awesome, man. I'm taking a look at the photo right now. It looks pretty cool, sir. We'll definitely talk more about it on Wednesday on our Ghost Head show. But Willow, you know how we do. Whenever we talk about a TV show on the Geekcast, we start out with a summary that goes a little something like this. Willow, episode 1, The Gales. We start out by meeting the twins, Prince Eric and his twin sister, Princess Kit, of the Tir Asleen. Kit has been offered to the Prince of Galadorn so that the kingdoms will be unified. Kit isn't thrilled by her arrangement, though. Her arranged marriage. Not so happy about it. One night, the castle is attacked. Warlocks and creatures storm the castle and kidnap Prince Eric. Kit, her best friend Jade, Prince Graydon, Borman, the prisoner, and Dove, the Muffin Girl, all set out to find the sorcerer Willow, who foretold that this day would come. Upon their arrival, Willow reveals Dove to be the fabled Elora Danon. All right, Joe, let us start with you first, sir. I know you were pretty excited when this show was announced, and you really wanted to talk about it. So let's get your instant reaction. Episode 1. What were your thoughts about it?
Well, before I get the reaction with that, the thing that's so, I guess, endearing with Willow is that the original film has a cult following. You know, it didn't really break box office records. It was okay. You know, it did admirably, but it was one of the first times that they started using CGI again to this extent in a film. You know, and of course they had Val Kilmer in it as well. You know, and it was kind of a failure, I guess, because George Lucas had helped pen the script, and it just wasn't seen with the same success as Star Wars. But regardless, fantasy film has a great cult following. I'm a fan of it. I liked it. I loved it as a kid. I still like watching it here and there. I watched it before I saw the series just to see, you know, hey, this is what the original was, and let's compare it to the series. Now, getting into the series, came into it with high expectations. You know that, hey, this is going to be a cool thing that's going to happen. You know, like it's a continuation of the original film,
Yep.
a continuation of the story. Episode 1, you know, the series. I was like, ho hum, okay. So gonna be a slow burn. Okay, let me go into episode 2 and let's see what they're gonna give me. And no, man, it was just bad. I'm sorry, man. I really wanted this series to be really good, you know, and I wanted it to be a solid entry into the fantasy genre, you know. Um, you had a lot of expectations, and you have somebody, you know, behind this whole series with big pockets like Disney does, you know, and honestly, I just felt like it just didn't live up to the expectations. You know, maybe these first two episodes were just that bad, maybe it'll pick back up. But I just don't think so. I just think that unfortunately Willow is just suffering from a poor script, bad acting, and it just didn't age well. I'll be honest with you, man. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I just don't think that it's withstood the test of time. The film has a special part in my heart, but as far as it kind of like really having that staying power to stand on its own, I just don't see it, man, and it's disappointing to say the least.
I see. I see. All right. Maybe your expectations were set a little too high. I actually want to go back and watch the original because it's been decades since I've seen it. I mean, I watched it as a kid. I remember loving it, and for whatever reason, I haven't really seen it since. I've
Maybe
seen
with
it.
the chemistry with the characters, there was some that comedy and it was funny, at the same time. But I just think that they're trying to force it, man, and it just misses the mark.
There you go. There you go. Matty B, let's go over to you next. Episode 1 of the Willow series. What are your initial thoughts to it?
It was. I agree with Joe in the fact that the original is a cult classic. And one of the things that made it so charming was Val Kilmer being such a douchebag, but he had these redeeming qualities that everyone came around together at the end. It's very similar to a Han Solo type character, to be
Yeah.
honest. And so I was willing to tune in for this. I was willowing to tune in for this,
Well
That's a
done.
new
Well
thing.
done, sir.
We're gonna
but
have to copyright that, Maddie.
it was incredibly bad in certain parts of the dialogue here. And George Lucas is not known for dialogue, but this is not a George Lucas film. This is something Disney adapted. You could have replaced this medieval or wherever place they were in and just put it in a California suburb.
Mm.
There was a lot of like whatever, like nobody was talking in a way that was endearing or to the time or anything of that nature whatsoever. The twin who got kidnapped was just like, oh yeah, surfer bro, like I can't even believe like all this stuff is going on. And and then of course the his twin sister is a lesbian who's hiding that, which we already saw in Game of Thrones but it was opposite. It wasn't a lesbian couple, it was a gay couple. So we've already kind of seen this thing. And now we've seen Game of Thrones and then Power of Rings start a little bit later and then Willow coming out way later. But you could tell this was Disney Plus's attempt to like hit that realm and do these things, and they just executed so terribly. It's unbelievable. I was watching this, and I know I used this quote to you earlier about Titans. We'll get into that later. I was in the fetal position waiting for it to stop. It it was unbelievably bad, and it just goes to Disney's repertoire right now of calling on later franchises of things that may have been problematic, because there was things in the original Willow movie that were a little bit problematic in today's age, and they're trying to go back and correct everything that went wrong then instead of just making new good stuff now. And that's exactly what this looks like to me. The comedy was ill-timed. You have this the twin sister. She's looking to be betrothed to a prince, and he's doing this for the realm. Again, very Games of Thrones and what we know of this time, and all that seemed normal. But she's standing up and saying, "No, I'm not. Nobody is gonna tell me who I can get married to." And I agree. Nobody should have to tell. I agree with the political sentiment, but we didn't need it in this platform at all.
Mm.
And it just comes across as forced. It comes across
Mhm.
as babyish, and it just seems petty. It's like at some point you've won the fight. We realized that things in the past weren't the way they were supposed to be, but now you're beating a dead horse, and that's kind of how it's kind of how Disney is doing it right now. They're beating a dead horse, and that's what I felt watching both episode and 2. I don't have comments on episode 2. My thoughts are the same on both.
Gotcha.
But wouldn't you find it? Didn't you find it very predictable? Like nothing was surprising. It was just very cliche.
Of course, it was predictable. We've seen them run this trope
No,
1,000 times. It's like, come on, give us something. And even when Willow, the sorcerer, he comes out, and Disney always does this. Whenever the new character comes in, there's always this moment. It's almost like a '90s sitcom when like a celebrity would come on to a popular '90s sitcom, and the audience has to give them an applause, and then they can go into their dialogue for the scene. It's really really bad. It's really bad.
Yeah, I think Disney, like we had said, Maddie, they've gotten really lazy as of late, man. It's like it's gotten they need to do better, man. It's just not good for them at this current juncture, you
Well,
know.
they switched CEOs, and I hope that that brings a little bit of change. I want representation of everybody all the time. I do. I'm not one. I'm a social liberal all day. Give it to me. I don't care if, but make it make sense. Forcing these things into scenarios is again just beating a dead horse. We recognize there's problems in the past, but every movie that comes out does not have to be a referendum on the past. It doesn't have to do that, and that's exactly what Willow is doing. It's exactly what it's doing.
Yeah,
Um,
at this point they're just force feeding you that, you know, and
yeah,
instead of it
but
just being natural, you know.
and that builds resentment. So the change they're looking to make is not being achieved because nobody likes to be force fed anything. It They need to change the way this, but they were already approved on it, and this thing was already done, and they didn't want to run it against Game of Thrones and Rings of Power, so they
Right.
held it off for a little while. So it's again, Disney pretends like they have this political agenda and they really want to help people. At the end of the day, it's only about the dollar. They knew they couldn't beat them, and so they waited till later. And it's just
Yeah.
it's talking out of both sides of your mouth. And
You know
Disney
what,
needs to
Maddie?
change that.
I
Uh-oh.
really think that this would have been a lot better if it was done as an animated feature instead, and it was just done as like maybe a one-off. Give me like an hour movie or something like that, short
An
film,
hour movie and
but
animated would have been sick.
done, you know?
And make it like Fantasia almost, like that
Yeah.
level of animation, like old school vibe, very well done. Like most of it's drawn.
Yeah.
Like that would have been insane if they would pull something like that out. But no, they decided to go to make this a teen melodrama where it's basically the OC. They're
It's
even
an emo
talking
drama. It's an emo drama, Maddie. That's what
they're,
it is.
they're talking like this, like they live in Orange County, California. If you listen to their dialogue, they are speaking not as if they're in Middle Earth or some random place in the Middle Ages. They are speaking as if they are in Orange County, California.
They wanted to go and stop by the Royal Starbucks on the way before they hit the road.
There you
The,
go.
the,
Get a nice
the,
coffee.
the Royal Starbucks. That was a great one.
All right,
No,
all
but
right, all right, all right.
seriously, yeah.
Great,
Yeah.
great takes, great takes. I'm still on board for right now. 2
No,
episodes in.
no.
It's not
Hit the
great.
mute button, Ted. Hit the
It's
mute
not
button.
great. I'm not in love with it, but actually, it's quite charming, and I want to see where this story goes. I don't know how many episodes actually are in this first season, but I need to look it
I
up
think
because I
it's
feel like
six episodes. I think.
well, I feel like they're
That's a
trying to
lot.
tell a really long story, and I'm like, oh no,
It's
8.
going to be an eternity for this
There's gonna
series.
be 8 episodes this first season.
Oh,
Um,
man.
you know, the only I like the character of Kit, and I know she acts like a petulant child. Her mother even calls her that. But lead characters, need arcs to have a good series.
This ain't
So
the production quality of ranks.
we need her to start off somewhere where she can grow from it. And so I'm interested to see how that character arc goes. Yes, the twin brother Eric, he's kind of a surfer boy dude, whatever you want to call him. I don't think we're going to be seeing a lot of him, obviously, because he's been kidnapped.
Well, no, because he's eating fish tacos in Cabo somewhere.
Hey, that's what it is. That's what it
He's
is.
drinking his Corona.
Yeah,
Um,
he's chilling, getting the baddies down there.
it does put a huge smile on my face to see Warwick Davis back in this role. I just feel like no matter what, anything that comes out of his mouth is genuine to this story and to this character. So most of the time, it's just him that I'm following along, And there are some really great quippy one-liners in this first and second episode. I actually really found something surprisingly funny. We got a bunch of people in the chat right now.
He's
Lexi Nerd says,
probably
"Never seen
joking.
Willow, but does it have Harfoots in it?" LOL. General Kenobi says, "I'm gonna be honest. Willow is on the list, but very low priority." Paxton says, "I haven't seen it, but I'll take a look." And Paxton also says, "He's probably surfing. Probably is. Probably
Make sure
is."
you put the comment up about my hair because General Kenobi's bunker and Legacy of Nerd having some fun. General
Oh,
Kenobi's bunker says, "Holy baby Wookie, Joe's hair is beautiful."
well done, well done. It's getting the most praise, the most attention on the show today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going along with the story for now. It's not mind blowing. It's not fantastic. It is more of a fantasy than Game of Thrones, or well, Ring to Power was a fantasy, but not Game of Thrones. House of the Dragon. House of the
Well,
Dragon isn't sort of huge in the fantasy realm. It's much more heavy in the drama aspect than it is on the fantasy side.
did you
Just
not see
based on the
any?
story.
Did you not see any of the political ideology being pushed in it?
It's weird. Can we talk? I mean, look, I don't want to talk
Eh,
about it a
no,
long
no,
time, but
but
it's
it's okay
weird
to talk about
because
these things. It's
listen,
okay to
listen,
talk about.
listen. I don't know why certain people. I don't know why people have to point out every time two people of the same sex share a kiss on screen. And in the same episode, we also saw two people of the opposite sex share a kiss. But for whatever reason, we only call out the same sex one saying, "Oh my god, they're forcing it all down our throats." But like there was also an opposite sex kiss, but we don't give that one the same attention. Like I think people are just going to always purposefully, some people are always just going to point it out when it happens,
But
whether
that's not
whether or not.
political ideology I'm talking about at all.
What's the political ideology you're talking about?
So, I mean, we all know, even back to the Romans and way back in ancient times, gay people have existed.
Sure,
That's
sure, sure, sure.
a thing, and they deserve respect and to be treated as normal. When I'm talking about political ideology, I'm talking about the attitude at which um, the younger folks are interacting with the older folks. I'm talking about with the way the older folks interact with the younger folks. I'm talking about
That's
um,
normal.
well, I mean, I guess so, but
Joe and
it
I have
just
teenagers. That's the exact attitude teenagers have today.
no, but it's just it's a little bit different when it comes across in the way they're putting it through. It
Yeah.
sounds forced. It sounds like all of these, like there's a lot of Disney properties that have this problem, and it doesn't come down to the LGBTQ thing at all.
Ah,
Most people who watch Disney are social liberals. You wouldn't watch Disney really unless you were. I don't think there's a lot of heavy conservatives with Disney Plus memberships. I don't think that that's a thing. I would like to see numbers on that.
Yeah,
Um,
they pretty much banned even liking Disney at this
yeah,
point.
so that's not a thing. That's something from the left and then something from the right. But it's clear bl- Disney has a clear agenda on pushing some radical ideas, and I think it comes through in the attitude of the characters that they produce and the writers that are writing for them. And it's hard to put a thumbprint on it. It's hard to pinpoint it down, and it's
yeah,
not to oppress anyone either. But it's very clear that they have a bit of an agenda of a message that they want to get across that I don't know is connecting with everyone. I don't know that it's landing with everyone. And I don't have all the answers. I'm not a genius. I'm just saying it's clear that it's really just not landing with anyone. We've had gay characters for a long time. I think Brokeback Mountain is an incredible film. I think it's a fantastic film. I don't care about the LGBTQ stuff. I don't
mm,
think that that's the biggest problem that I have. It's they're just not landing with the characters and they're forcing things into shows where we're trying to escape from all that. We're trying to get we're trying to turn off CNN, we're trying to turn off Fox News, we're trying to turn off MSNBC, and they're force feeding it down our throats when we're trying to just escape into a fantasy show.
Now, this is when you watch anything as far as Netflix, Disney Plus, or any other of the streaming services out there, and you're watching a show, you're watching it to kind of have that mindless fun. get your mind off of things, just have fun and be entertained. You
They
know,
won't
and
let it.
yeah, and I think that's what Maddie's alluding to. As of late, it just feels like Disney's using a copy and paste formulation, and it's kind of missing the mark. I got to say. So hopefully, with this new leadership now in place with the new CEO, maybe things will be corrected and move more in a positive direction. Because when Disney's just entertaining you, I think that's when they're at their best. But when they start to go ahead and change that, that's when they're kind of missing the mark. And I think again, force feeding the issues and their social political views on the masses isn't really what you want to see when you turn on the tube.
Legacy Nerd says the most political show on Disney Plus right now is the Santa Clauses. Santa is getting mad. They named naughty kids nice impaired. Gotta be a PC there. Um, I don't know. I feel like eh, if you were telling me that there's an agenda that Disney with Willow they're trying to force us to watch or to like comply with, I wouldn't know what that agenda is. We see a bunch of bratty teenagers. That's kind of a normal thing. Joe has a teen. I have a teen. We were actually talking about this earlier. That's what teens do these days. They are entitled, but that's because they come from a world where you can get whatever you want at the push of a button. It kind of happens. Willow, I think they're just trying to show us that the main character Kit, she has a lot to learn. She's abrasive, she's arrogant, and something will happen that will humble her, and that's going to be the character's arc. You can't start off with perfect people because then you get what people were complaining about with Rings of Power. Galadriel was the perfect character. She won all of her fights, and she was a badass, and she never lost. So they called her Mary Sue. I just think that too many people complain about female characters all the time. I feel like we we put way too much emphasis on that. We just need to take a step back and not let maybe our political goggles like cloud everything that we're doing and watching. I don't let I don't let my political affiliations or whatever interfere with what I watch. I watch everything across the board, and I just want to watch the shows and what they're trying to do with these characters and these stories. But I think too many times we see people, they have like a female lead and they're just like, oh, a female lead, they're trying to replace all the male leads with females and change all the sexes and blah blah blah. It's gotten too ridiculous that we point every single thing out. I really can't imagine what agenda Willow's trying to push at this very moment. I think that what they've done so far is just kind of tell us that these characters have several motivations that are involved. Kit and Jade, for example, they're closer than friends. There is strong feelings there, and yet Jade wants to move on with her military career, and because she wants to make something of herself and like dedicate her life to the realm, whereas Kit thinks it's pointless and would rather just kind of stick around. But also, she's betrothed to be married, and that's one of the motivations why she's acting like such an arrogant brat, just because she may or may not be in love with this other girl, and to be married off, against her will would would make anybody kind of go through those emotions. So I haven't seen, and I probably won't see what agendas they're trying to kind of shove down our throats. I think that there's a lot of story to tell, and like I mentioned, I'm interested, I'm intrigued. I'm not loving it, but I there's a lot that they're trying to tell us that they need to accomplish. Traveling to the Shattered Sea, crossing it, uh, saving Eric. Like this is a very big story that they're trying to tell us here. This is Fellowship of the Ring level type stuff they're trying to accomplish. And I don't know if
Mhm.
they could do it in 8 episodes. I think that's the biggest challenge. Can you tell a coherent, interesting story for 8 episodes? And then
For sure.
that's
But
going to
Ted,
be the biggest thing.
Ted, I think
Yes,
that
I'm listening.
where the bias comes in
Yeah,
is um there's no so if they wanted to tell this story through a modern political lens, then you set it in modern times. There's nothing wrong with telling a story in the past of how people would have treated the past. In the past, there wouldn't have been this radical millennial Gen Z attitude towards a betrothal marriage. There just wouldn't have been. There wouldn't have been this attitude towards a lot of these things. So when you're telling stories in
Is
a
this
particular,
Earth?
when you're telling stories on a particular time frame,
That's a serious
and
question.
it doesn't matter what it is, you know what they're setting up, because all the things you were talking about before would have been set in Earth too. So it clearly this is set with earthly intention. And so I think that it's important that you tell a story that's accurate for the time.
We don't know what time
Unless
this is, though.
unless it's satire, like a Django did a specific timepiece that was satirical, and it was
Yeah.
clear that it was satirical, and that's why it works so well. But when you have very modern ideas and very modern characters set into this world over here, but you're pretending like it isn't you're pretending like it isn't abnormal or weird. It comes across as kind of odd. There's no reason, if they wanted to tell the story, they didn't have to do it through Willow. They could have chosen anything else. They could have created a new story. They could have written something new. The problem comes into when you force things into stories that they don't belong into. Like this story that they're telling doesn't, or the way they're setting up characters doesn't make sense in this time frame.
Yeah, well,
So
These are millennial ideas.
I
This
get
is
it. I get it.
hundreds of years ago.
you want to know where it's set in? It's a planet called Andowni, and basically what the fans have said is that it exists in the Star Wars universe on a planet out way out in the outer rims that hasn't really been discovered yet and has been untouched by technology. That's what fans are saying when you look at some of the forums and databases and all that that they have in regards to Willow.
Is that Wikipedia?
Yeah, it's all over, dude.
Well,
Everybody has like I guess their own take on it.
they refer
I
to
just
it as Mother World. It's two large continents only. It's not, it's not Earth. It's not like it's the past of Earth. It is
It's
its
another
own
planet.
separate entity, its own separate planet, fantasy world, if you will. Um,
But Ted, wouldn't you agree? This is my only point.
yeah,
Like you have to agree
you
here.
you said millennial attitude, and I
No, yeah, but they're millennial characters. Even the dialogue is millennial. They're talking as if they live in today.
oh,
They're not speaking as if they did in the original Willow movie. They're not talking in dialogue as if they would have in times past, or even in Star Wars movies, other Lucas films. They're actually speaking as if this was a new, like, OC.
I gotcha. I need
It's
to
just,
go
it
back and
doesn't fit.
watch the original Willow because, like I mentioned before we started, it's been decades. If it's completely like off, then I would agree with
Dude,
you.
it's
It's
like whoa,
English.
whoa, whoa. I wish dude, I would, I mean, honestly,
They
like
talk like
if
Valley kids, man.
dude, they
Valley
talk
Kids. There you
straight up,
go.
it's straight up like Orange County.
And it can be distracting. I totally admit if you focus on it, if it's there, if it's completely completely different from the original film, then yeah, totally distracting. It'll totally pull anybody out of it. Um, I found myself not focusing on the dialogue too much. I don't know why, but for some reason it didn't stick out to me like a sore thumb as much.
The one
Let's
thing that looked really cool though was the I guess the art, that they were doing prior to the film being made. They were showing some of the production artwork and kind of like, the set, I guess they were drawing set pieces and whatnot. After, the series finishes, as far as an episode finishes, they show you like artwork and stuff,
the
um,
credits and all that. Yeah,
credits and all that. And that's really cool. Like that's why I was saying, like, instead of them doing it as live action, if they would have just stuck, I think, as an animated feature, film, even if it was a short film, it would have been amazing. Like if they would have had that type of artwork and then put in the production, I mean, you could have made it look like Arcane or something like high level where you're using Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Animator and all that. It would have
there
looked
you go. There
amazing.
you go. Let's get into episode 2 real quick. The High Aldwin. We open up on a flashback between Willow and Queen Sorsha, we learn that Sorsha had sent Madmartigan out in search of a rare weapon with a squire, and the two of them never returned. Fast forward to the present, Willow begrudgingly goes along on the quest to cross the Shattered Sea, knowing that it puts Allura in harm's way. The Gales are also aware of Allura and have cursed Commander Ballantine, to being a servant for them. He captures Elora by the end of the episode. So I didn't see that coming, that they captured her right away. Now you have the prince and Elora, who's the only person that could potentially vanquish the evil that's, coming back. So that's an interesting twist at the end, a little bit of a cliffhanger there. Um, this was another somewhat interesting episode. Nothing great in my opinion. The only person that really kind of pulls me out of the story is Prince Graydon. They're not giving that kid enough to do in this show. Like, I really don't know if he should really be on this quest. Um, the whole Allura twist, I didn't see coming. I thought Allura was going to be like a Gandalf type thing, where like he would fall from the sky or he would come out of a rock or something. I
I
don't
was gonna
know.
say, "You shall not pass."
If it sounded like Allura was going to return, like the second coming of Christ or something, and ended up being just one of the servant maids in the kitchen making muffins. So that was a kind of a cool twist. I'm interested to see, what happens next. How does Allura get captured? Why not just kill her on the spot? That would be interesting to find out. But yeah, like I mentioned, I'm interested to see where this goes. Warwick, love seeing him back on screen in this role. I love this sort of the comedy of like, is he a sorcerer or is he not? Like, none of his friends even think he's a sorcerer. They even tell him to his face, like, bro, you don't do magic. Like, you're not good at anything. It kind of sucks having friends like that, but it's got to kind of lead to something. I don't know. I'm hoping that we get some sort of big, huge moment where like he really shows off what he can do as a sorcerer. That's what I'm hoping for, at least. Joe, your thoughts on episode 2?
Again, just very mediocre. Wasn't very good. The best part I liked about the whole episode was the end credits, so I could see the beautiful artwork.
Gotcha. And Maddie, any additional comments on episode 2?
Yeah, just more useless humor from irrelevant characters. It's clear that they're setting up to the wizard, the sorcerer, um, to redeem himself at the end. It was completely underwhelming, and I don't know. It gives me tough thoughts on things not run by Dave Filoni and Dave Favreau when it comes to Lucasfilm, and it's just another disappointment in the ranks. And I want to make a deal with Joe. Actually, I want to finish this
Ooh.
here. Um, if we get to episode 3 and it still sucks, do we have to keep doing this?
I'm ready to bow out now.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll wait for
Oh
episode
man,
3. I'm a 3 episode guy
there
because
you go.
you don't really know things until you get to episode 3. Let's do episode 3 and see if it's worth doing. I haven't really no other comments.
You made it to episode 6 of Titans. I mean, that one's tough to watch.
Well, and that one has a lot of problems I can deal with too. But when you DC is nowhere anywhere near and dear to my heart as Lucasfilm is to me, and so you can. It's like, you know, DC is my cousin, and if you pick with him, I might fight you at the bus stop. But if you mess with Lucasfilm, that's my brother. That's my hermano. And if you do that, then you're toast. And so
There you
this is
go.
another sort of attack against my hermano, Lucasfilm.
Gotcha. We want to hear from you guys that are watching the stream, or if you're listening to this on the podcast of the Geekcast, we want to hear from you guys. Let us know what you thought about the premiere of Willow. Drop your thoughts in the comments, or you can email us on the contact page of our website at www.countdowntothegeekcast.com. Oh man, let's see here. One final topic of the day, and that is Titans episode 6. And last
Yeah.
week was rough. Last week was tough. Me and Matt, we pretty much said, you know what, we're throwing in the towel. Like, you really just kind of took us out of everything with the episode that happened last week. I think this one, less ridiculousness happened, but it was still, there were still a few moments where you're just like, I can't even with this right now. Um, I don't know, and I don't know how you fix it. But regardless, let's go ahead and talk about it. Episode 6, Titans.
This
The
is where I leave you, Teddy, because I don't watch Titans.
You don't watch Titans yet? Okay, okay, no worries, man. Joe, appreciate you joining this week's episode, and we will talk more about Willow next week.
Yeah,
Hey,
hopefully.
Joe. Hey,
Yeah.
Joe. The haircut looks incredible, bud.
It's awesome, bro. It's awesome.
Thanks, Mandy. Hopefully your mic stays on, dude. Good luck, guys.
If not, I'm going solo the rest of the night.
There you go. All right, guys. See y'all later.
Peace. Titans, episode 6. We can hear all of that. What are you doing?
I was tightening my battery back in. It's dying, but I switched the batteries before, and then it
Gotcha.
went to full, but now it's blinking again. So I was just trying to fix it. I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. Titans episode 6, titled Brother Blood. Summary goes like this. The Titans are looking for Sebastian. Connor's Luther side has taken completely over and is running the show at Star Labs. And he even goes rogue to try and take down Mother Mayhem by himself. Jinx comes up with a spell to find Sebastian. Raven gets her powers back. Gar goes apeshit. Jinx gets too cocky. And Sebastian completes a ritual just before the blood moon ends. Matty B, before your mic goes dead, your thoughts on episode 6 of Titans?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Honestly, I sort of tapped out of this episode. I actually went back and rewatched a little bit of it because when Connor tapped a perfect triangle out of a mirror and then shaved his head with the laser power, that to me is just is irredeemable. What a
Yeah.
waste of that power that he has to have him shave his head and then come back as a complete dickbag. And it's obvious that there's some influence on him from the serpent. It's clear that that's kind of what the case is. But he's coming back in now. Hey, you, control the coordinates to level V. You, turn that up a notch. And then he's like running this whole thing. It's cringe. It was just cringe. Coming back in with the bald head. He's going at it with Nightwing. It was just absolutely cringe. Now we got it about 3/4 through the episode. We got into a little bit of meat that was I thought was really interesting. Where we're doing a spell to try to get powers back. This all relates back to new. I guess he found his balls, Connor Superboy, being locked up now, of course, because he's a complete idiot and he's handcuffed in here. But they figure out where they are, and then we get back into here. And now this is where stuff starts going down. We have Beast Boy coming in as a gorilla. We have them really trying to take care of them and still taking care of their friend Connor, even though he just dogged every single one of them out. He just dogged all of them out. This is the closest we've seen to them teaming up all together. Am I wrong? This is about the closest this came, even though that two of them didn't have their powers and one of them was handcuffed to a stone. This is just about the closest we've had to the whole team teaming up here. But Beast Boy's able to get the powers back. It was This episode is cringe. And then she says you have, in order to be complete, to complete the transformation, you have to drink this and you have to soak into the pool. But somehow he just does one half of those steps and is able to obtain enough power to scream them out of the building. And they just disappeared.
I was curious about that. It's not clear, but I feel like that has more to do with Gar going into the red, but I could be wrong here.
But he didn't have any hands on him or anything. Like, again, we're giving Gar a lot of really extra powers. Like, if he was even touching them, I could see that making sense. So
Unless their plan to teleport Sebastian out, of course, was impossible. So
yeah, yeah.
whoever decided, like, okay, then we'll just take everybody else out one at a time. Maybe that's what just what happened.
I guess,
But
and then
how, they don't explain it, so it still doesn't matter.
you're right. So I mean, we can conclude what we want, and
Yep.
that's a leeway you should not give the audience. That's not an artistic expression. That's abstract art. That's when you go and somebody splattered paint on a canvas, and everyone's looking around like, "What do you think it means?" When the guy literally just threw paint on a canvas. And that's kind of what they're doing here. They have beautiful paints. They have a beautiful canvas, and by canvas and by paints, I mean their characters and the world that they're set in. The world is the canvas, and the paints are these characters. And instead of painting a masterpiece, they're just splattering paint at an empty canvas, and it's coming across as if they don't care, as if maybe you're just gonna tune in here. I like the romance starting here, at least because Tim Drake he's starting to get a little bit of a little bit of personality, at least. He's found a little bit of a romance. He's stated the fact that he's going to be um you know I he's trying to feel it out a little bit, but he's like, I'm gonna have to go and it's gonna be dangerous. I like that we're giving his character some levity during this episode. I think he's the only character that grew in this episode. In
Mm.
fact, some of the other ones we've been watching have regressed a little bit. I think Connor regressed in this episode. um Nightwing regressed in this episode a little bit. um I don't know. I'm finding it to be a tough watch, and it should not be. When you have these properties, when you have these costumes, when you have this the money involved to hit some of these scenes and the artistic, the way that it looks sometimes, I just feel like they're just missing the mark on every chance they get. It's almost like their target is missing the mark altogether. Like they're getting bullseyes for not even hitting the board. And
I
like,
gotcha.
how did these ideas even come through? And you told me about this. You warned me about this
I
about the past
warned
three.
you.
You warned me about it. But
I said,
I'm
hang
curious
on,
about
don't
your.
get too excited.
But no, I'm really curious about your thoughts because I texted you. We were both halfway through the episode.
Yeah,
What what
I
did you think?
I remember you saying something when you started this show. Maybe it took a few episodes, but you said something along the lines of, "I'm watching every episode and I don't follow what's happening, or you don't care what's going on." This show has a really hard time of getting people like really invested on what's taking place, and it's obviously a writing issue. But I don't know how you fix it. You have such great characters, like actors. It's just all about like what are you doing with them, that is the key. And for whatever reason, maybe it's the villains. The villains, like, we don't care about the villains. They don't pose any sort of like real threat, or they're not ominous or formidable or whatever it is. I don't know. But I'm still there. Like, I'm 4 seasons in, and I am not invested in the stories of what's happening whatsoever. And I know it sucks to say, because I love DC. I love Nightwing. I want Nightwing
But
to have his own movie, his own TV show.
is it because though that they're writing this as if it's Scooby Doo, right?
It feels very Scooby Doo. Very much so.
It's Scooby Doo.
I it's so odd and weird. You know what? Connor gets a pass for the shaving of the head, because that's a very funny joke that they do with Clark all the time, where he has Kryptonian cells that you cannot penetrate or break with any like razor
Not
or
his hair,
knife or
nothing. Yeah.
anything. So you have to actually he has to use mirrors and his laser eyes to actually like shave his beard and all that. That's a funny joke that they've done all the time. So I'll give that
Yeah,
one a
but
pass.
for
Why
sure. But it's
why
still
Luther takes
cringe.
over? Again, I'm gonna give it a pass because it's a funny thing. Why Luther takes over? Is it something to do with the dark magic snake, like you had mentioned earlier, which is totally fine. I think we just need more. I complained last episode, the last stream we did, about the last 2 episodes, because all of the actions and jumps they were taking were done without like any sort of reasonable comprehension in how they were executing these elements. This one, we're gonna teleport him out. How? Magic. Come on, you gotta give us something.
Yeah, talk about a Mary Sue. I mean, they're
If they
Mary Suing this whole thing.
every episode, it's just this weird thing where like they're just gonna write this I don't know, Deus ex machina moment where like everything gets fixed. Like we're just going to do everything. Everything's fixed. Everything's fixed. How? This is magic. That is magic. Um,
But it's charmed. It's charmed. Is
it's
it not
weird.
charmed? They've turned it into charmed.
It's so weird. Even
But
even okay, this episode had was they're going to find Sebastian using a spell where Raven has to eat the hair of Jinx, and then
yeah,
she's gonna give her the little
mango
mark
pineapple, mango
mango
pineapple.
pineapple. There you go. Tastes well. It's a spell where she marked her head, and then Corey got involved by transferring some of her power. Like, why? What does any of this mean? Why would this make
But
sense?
but
It
my
makes no
but
sense
my thing
whatsoever.
but on this exact point. So, we just saw Connor just walk over to a regular human data analyst and completely figure out where this signal was coming from, where to go.
That I
But
believe is more believable though, because they were
but
hacked
they
and they were able to trace the
but
hacker's
where are they
position.
located? Were they located in Star Labs?
They
Why did we have
Connor
to
is yes.
they had to do a very complicated ceremony in order to find out the same information that Connor just a minute and a half before on screen just demanded from somebody who was working a data
Yes, that was crazy. You're right.
that
When Mother Mayhem was just like hack the Luther computers. We're gonna find out what's going on here. It's like that's your first
yeah.
thought. Like Lex Luthor is involved in all this.
And we're all comic book fans. We understand that Connor this whole time has been trying to reach the Kal-El level, and that each day that Kal-El doesn't return to Star Labs, Connor has been more and more difficult to reach with, especially after the passing of his other father, Lex Luthor, and the shaving of his head, and this new attitude that he has is his invoking his other father. I all of that makes a lot of sense to me. If you run with that storyline for me, this episode where this is Connor Superboy being more Lex Luthor, and he's kind of taking control, and he's having to, deal with that in his own way. That's a much more interesting episode to me than him coming in and Lex Luthering for the first. That's all he was doing in the first 20 minutes of the
Oh
episode.
yeah, for sure.
He's Lex Luthering, and he's getting every bit of information from just data analysts at these computers. And the Justice League is over here putting together very complicated seances and magic in order to get the same information that he just, hey, tell me what that is. Okay, perfect. It looks like they're right there. It's just it gives no reason, it gives no sense of the writers know what they're doing. It almost is like one of those writer rooms where there's writers who write for each character, and then there's a final editor who kind of blends them all together. That's really what it seems like to me when I go back at this, because it's just like none of it blends together. This wasn't a team of writers who wrote one story. It can't be.
No, definitely not. Couldn't you have just had one of the analysts like slip a note to the team after Connor like jets
Well,
and
obviously Connor's being a douchebag. Who's in charge of the team? Nightwing.
right?
Right. So obviously this data analyst who's getting bullied very heavily by a Lex Luthor taking over sort of Connor character. After he gives that information and Connor disappears, don't you think she would just walk over to Nightwing and be like, hey, but he just dipped off. I know you guys just had some beef a second ago, and you just called out everybody in your team, and you were all talking about how you had to help each other and find this specific bit of information. Well, I just found it, and here it is.
Yeah.
And maybe like go save the world
Connor's gone.
because it's
He's gone now. So now you can just walk over to the third floor, wherever they're at, and be
It
like,
makes no sense.
"Hey, listen, he didn't want me to give you guys this, but here's the actual position of where you could find Sebastian," and that,
Which was found like that.
yeah, which is fine because again they got hacked, and then they could trace those. That's a real thing in real life that we know is possible. Now, whether or not these people in this like 200-foot underground cave have that level of technology down there, that's more questionable in my opinion than Lex Luthor's systems tracing back
But there
to the
was a
hacker's
there was
location.
speaking of the cave, there was a couple of badass moments there with Raven and what's her face? Why am I always
Rory,
forgetting her name?
Starfire,
With the Starfire. Raven's just got her powers back. She got them back in that tomb actually, and she's transformed into the white dress. And then Starfire is also feeling her powers quite a bit, and they're going back and forth um, with Mother Mayhem, and it's they're holding her up and they're doing a lot of these things, and Mother Mayhem is just slipping through. But then other times, Mother Mayhem will be down. For example, Mother Mayhem is all of a sudden down when he goes to pick up the drink to take a sip for the first time. She's picking herself up off the ground and doing all these things. It's like, can we get a little bit more in depth onto whose power levels are over whose? We have to have a general sense of who can take down who at any given time. It can't just be, hey, you can come in and hit somebody with a stick and all of a sudden they're down. And because these characters have very different power levels, so some of these attacks may be very trivial, and they showed that a little bit in the beginning with Mother Mayhem kind of subduing them, but then all of a sudden everybody was putting up a fight. I don't get how that fight really went down before it got to the point of Sebastian doing the echo shout that he did when the tower broke, and then all of a sudden again, when I'm talking about this, it sounds like I'm talking in hieroglyphs.
yeah, it's crazy.
It's just that's how they presented the show, though.
Yeah. No, for sure, for sure. White Raven was kind of cool. Her coming back as White
That was
Raven,
sick.
that is awesome. I will admit that.
And she looked around like, I don't know.
I don't know. It's just it is what it is. But again, like that I will let go of. Like, okay, Powers came back and now she's Gandalf the White instead of Gandalf the Gray. I'm down. I'm fine. That's totally cool.
Why is
It's
Tim Drake
just
still wearing a mask?
I don't have I can't answer that question. Why is there a measurement to Starfire's powers? Like you're only using 8% of your powers. Now you're using like 80%. It's like how do you measure this? How is
Yeah,
this a
what are you
thing?
doing?
Why is
It's
that
like the
why is
old.
that so important?
Do you remember
So
the
odd.
comedian Daniel Tosh?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Tosh Point oh. So he used to have this really funny bit in his stand up where he was talking about, okay, so how does Superman fly faster? I get that Superman can fly. Okay, that's put together.
Yeah.
But how does he fly faster? Is it just more of like this?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so that's how it kind of feels with Starfire, where it's like, well, what do you mean? Like you're only using a little bit of your power. Obviously, this is an incredibly dire situation. Shouldn't you be using, if you had a measurement of it and you could gauge it like that, shouldn't you be using like 100% of your power right now to make sure that the Earth isn't obliterated?
There you go. Absolutely. Always yeah. No, Daniel Tosh, that's an amazing joke. And there's another comedian who says something. Maybe it was Daniel who says, "How do you fly faster? You just clench your butt tighter. Is that how you fly faster?" I don't know if it was him or somebody else that mentioned that, but yeah, no, completely agree.
Like, how do you fly faster? And that's the same thing that we're dealing with Starfire right now.
Yeah,
It's like, what do you mean? Like, just do your powers. What do you mean? There's a gauge on it. All of a sudden, like you have a speedometer.
I can't help but think of Shaggy every time they mention like she's only using 8% of her power because that's that running Shaggy joke that happened like last
Yeah,
year or whatever, from that
yeah.
animated film they did. Either way,
but they did turn it into Scooby Doo. Maybe that's a nod.
you know what? That's what this whole thing is. If you told me that the goal was to make a live action Scooby Doo using superhero characters, then I would have said mission accomplished. You guys did it for real, for real.
Everybody
Now,
splits up.
now I'm impressed because like, hey, you accomplished the impossible. It's as absurd as a Scooby Doo animation cartoon, um, and somehow we keep watching. I'm hoping they stick the landing. I'm actually wondering because somebody mentioned in a comment that there's no Titans this week, and I don't know if that's true or not. Um,
Let me look it up.
I'm actually looking up on IMDb, and sure enough, episode 7 doesn't have a release date. So I'm wondering if we actually are going to be taking a break from Titans. I had no idea. That's quite
Well, I'm invested so far. I'm going to continue to watch it, but um, yeah, I don't see a release date either. I just looked it up.
so. I think from here on out, I mean, I don't know how long they're going to take. I can't imagine why you would take a break in the first place. This is a streaming service here. We don't need to be.
Titans will return from its mid-season break in 2023.
Dear God, that can mean anything.
But again, that sounds like forever because we always talk about 2023 all year as if it's forever. I mean, that could be January 1, you know? I mean, so it's really not that far. But to take a mid-season break is crazy. This show isn't that good. It should be canceled already. When you look when you look at how beautiful the costumes are in this show, with the level of the type of cameras that they have, the level of CG that they're able to accomplish when they do. Even the gorilla looked really great in this episode, I thought, for the budget it had. Um, the writing department has completely failed this show in a way that's unbelievable. Everybody looks amazing. It's casted perfect. They're great actors. I can't pick a point that I really have a problem with the show other than the direction and the writing that it's going in.
It's so odd. It boggles my mind. I don't ever have a solid answer why this show kind of fails to work every now and then. To me, it's always just about the very little details. Honestly, I remember last year there was an episode where like it was either Metropolis or Gotham because I don't really care enough to remember. Was like tearing itself apart, like crime in the streets, buildings were burning, like just mass chaos, right? And in the episode itself, I think they showed us like one block, like 8 people, and in my head, like you're really trying to convey that the entire city's gone like haywire, and you show us like less than a dozen people that are involved in this. Like the message is not getting through. Like there's a disconnection with what you're trying to tell us and what we're willing to believe because it's just a large leap every single time they want to tell us something, and I don't know, I don't understand why.
Doesn't it seem like we have issues with this with a lot of franchises and even some Marvel properties and other things?
I feel
They
like
hire really good writers. They hire great writers who don't know comic books and they don't care about the
that
characters.
might be it. I mean, that may or may not be it, but I feel like what Marvel does better than anybody, even Star Wars, is that Marvel will build up towards something. You know what I mean? Like they're never
There is an end goal.
they're
There is an end goal there.
yeah,
That's a fact.
even just small moments. Not small moments. It could be big moments in the final act of a movie or the final act of a phase. You are going to be fully aware and understand when something dramatic is happening. A golden glove when all the stones are on it at the snap of a finger, you can destroy half of all life across the galaxy. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. It sounds absurd, but we all believe it now because you spent 20 movies telling us exactly what all these stones can do and why when you put them together it's
There was a
mass
clear
chaos.
consensus.
Yeah, exactly. No one's not believing that glove can't do that. So it's Marvel knows how to just drop in the little hints and the crumbs very subtly along the way to make you follow along. I mean, it's odd. Like Ant-Man is a guy that at the push of a button can shrink down to the size of an atom and travel through, subatomical galaxies and universes. That seems far fetched, but we go along with it because it makes sense that that technology exists, and so he can grow small and big. But you tell me that like Garfield Logan, is that, I think it's his last name, right? Garfield Logan, who can transform into a germ, a virus, and go inside to save his buddy, like that threw me for a loop. It makes no sense.
The technology has never been established as well in the DC universe. One thing that John Favreau did really well with Iron Man, and even everybody who was involved with it, and I think John Favreau wasn't on one. What was he on, two?
Of what? Iron Man?
Iron Man, yeah,
Yeah, he directed one. He was in both of them, I think.
for sure. So they really set you up to believe that Tony Stark was this character and that he had the ability to produce technology that was unbelievable but practical at the same time. And they started that way back at Iron Man 1. And they always had that vision sort of moving forward. And it allowed us to get into this realm where we could believe in this incredible technology, but the story is really about how we felt about these very relatable characters. Marvel has just done an incredible job there, and DC has done the exact opposite of that. And they started it with Snyderverse. I will agree. I'm a big Batfleck guy. I like the way that the direction of that was going, but DC just sucks. If you were to actually take an over under of comic book knowledge, and you were to take the writers' room of Titans and give them a pop quiz on comic book knowledge, what do you think the average score would be? Do you think it'd be an A, a B, a C, a D, or an F?
I'd say B minus, maybe
I would
B
say
plus.
it would have to be a C minus at best.
Yeah,
They're stretching
I got you.
it. I think this is CW. This is Charmed writers. They're writing Charmed, and they're sort of being forced. Maybe they have to sneak into their son's room at night and read comic books to try to get a little bit of semblance of, how to do these characters. But the people writing this knew nothing about the DC universe.
I'm gonna stop you there. This is not Charmed because you said Willow was Charmed. This is Walker, Texas Ranger. Like every now and then, Walker would do something that no human being could absolutely do unless it had magical superpowers.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to them, I can't even tell you all the crazy things that they did in that show.
Well, call the show what you will. What I'm saying it is a lame cable TV show
It's
that's placed on HBO, and it's only there because it does gore and it says the F word every once in a while.
Yeah,
That's the only reason why it's placed there. This could be just a CW show. This could be, and again, there's good CW shows. I don't want to I don't know. It's just it. This is a lame cable TV series that's been given the platform to use the F word and to use gore at will.
there's rumors. Let's talk about rumors, and then I don't want to talk about theories going forward because I
And we're
I
done. Yeah.
don't I don't I'm not invested. I'm not invested. So brother,
Yep.
Brother Blood has completed his transformation. The world should end now. Like you told us that's what's gonna happen. So now we lose. That's what's supposed
Because
to
the
happen.
Earth is off its axis, right?
Something like that. Whatever it is. Um Reportedly there might be a crossover episode with Titans. The other shows that are still around, not canceled, are Doom Patrol, The Flash, Stargirl, and I think that's it. Super did I say Stargirl, not Supergirl. Um but yeah, that's it. So let's see what happens. I don't know which characters are going to be crossing over. Sometimes it's all of them, sometimes just they cherry pick a few of them. Also Lois and Clark. Um Not Lois and
Which is a
Clark.
great show.
Superman and
And
Lois. Superman and Lois. Yeah.
Titans stay the hell away from Superman and
They
Lois.
can't do that because I think we have a different Superman in this
Yeah,
universe.
because Kal-El and Superman and Lois couldn't just be gone for months at a time.
Absolutely, and I think there may or may not be an established Luther, kind of. I don't know. I feel like
Completely different
there's
universes.
completely different universes for sure, and I think it would be too messy. But this show does messy all the time, so maybe
But are we gonna get Kal-El? They've been teasing him kind of the whole season. Are we gonna get Kal-El? And which Kal-El would it be?
I don't know. You know what? If I would, let's see. There's a few Supermen that we've not seen in a long time. There's Smallville Superman. We haven't seen him in the tights and the cape in a long time. If you pull that off, fans would freak. If we got Tom
What
Welling as the Man of Steel,
Brandon Routh, Brandon Ruth.
Brandon Routh, he could, but he's also Kingdom Come Superman. His Luther is kind of Kevin Spacey. If you want to stay canonical, his Luther is Kevin Spacey. Now, maybe this Luther that died in episode one. You know what, Legacy Nerd? You actually beat me to it. The other Superman
Dean
that's still
Cain?
out there is actually Dean Cain. So that
No
that
way,
could be a
no
thing.
way. Dean Cain took a far right plunge into My Pillow Fox News world. There's no way Dean Cain is getting pulled back out into mainstream media. There's no way.
I don't know if this is.
No, Dean Cain took a James Cameron, not James Cameron, the director of Avatar, but the James Cameron, or I believe that's his name, who played in Growing Pains. He did the Left Behind series. Dean Cain went down that route. I'm telling you, he's on the My Pillow train.
No.
There's
I
no,
hear
there's
you.
no,
I hear you.
there's no way Dean Cain is getting pulled back out into mainstream media.
Okay, you know what else could be cool? I don't think they would ever do it. Um, Back in 1988, there was a teenage Clark movie that they called. Oh, it was a series. So it was a series from 88 to 92, and there was a young Clark Kent played by Gerard Christopher, and the series was called Superboy because Superman was young, so it was called Superboy. If they pulled that guy and tried to make it canonical, which they've done that with several other DC properties, if they try to canonize that by bringing in that actor, who I believe is still doing work, he's more of a, I don't know if he is or not doing any work right now. Either way, that could be another option.
What
Superboy,
if it?
HBO
What if
Max.
it's
There
just
you
like
go.
he just pops in and it's Christopher Walken? Wow, I've been gone for a long time.
Nick
This is
Cage.
great.
Nick
Yeah,
Cage, the lost Nick Cage movie that never got made.
it's just
They could bring back Nick Cage, and he could be the Superman of this universe. There
it's
you
Jeff
go.
Goldblum. Just uh, I'm a Superman, right? He's killing it in that realm. I don't know, but it's not Dean Cain. It can't be Brandon Routh. I don't think it can't be. Obviously, rest in peace. Um, I don't know. I think it'd be difficult. I think that's why they haven't brought him back yet. They didn't know who to cast into this role. It can't be the guy from Superman and Lois. It just, but Kal-El. I mean, he's gonna have to interact with Connor's story at some point. If he doesn't, it's a complete nothing burger.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, it feels like you can't talk about a person, a character, this much and not have it pay off in one way or another. And I just feel like that's what we're expecting from this show. We're expecting to be let down,
Well, they
and
could have saved it with Luther. So they could have just said, "Hey, well, Kal-El's never coming around, so Luther is going to be your father figure." They killed him episode 1 or
yeah.
episode 2 of this season.
I think it was one. I feel like it was
Maybe 1.
one and done. Yeah.
So they could have said, "Hey, we don't have to cast a Superman for this. We'll Lex Luthor will be his sort of dark father, and then Cal never comes around. That's why Luther has a little bit of pull on him. They could have gotten away with that, but they got rid of him immediately. So, I mean, there has to be some sort of payoff here with Kal-El, or Kal-El's just a deadbeat dad. There's no other way around it.
It is odd, and again, I mentioned like that's a very familiar storyline between these
Yeah.
two. Clark is always very nervous to sort of open up this door because in a lot of ways, he feels like a failure. He failed to know that he had this s- surrogate child who had been a prisoner for so long, and in a lot of ways, Connor is a depiction of Clark's failure as a hero because he couldn't even save his own flesh and blood who had been a prisoner for so long. Um, it's really tough. There's a lot of complexities between these two, so that it makes a lot of sense. Who they get to play him, no idea, but yeah, you had a couple of actors actually. John Newton also played Superboy on the series. Um, we already talked about Dean Cain. Um, Gerard Christopher played Superman, or who played Clark on the Superboy series between seasons 2 and 4. Tom Welling would be the best choice if you ask me. Whether or not you can make that canonical or canonize that, will it get too messy? There's probably a way it would get too messy, but either way, I think we're done talking about Titans for a while.
Yeah.
We want to hear from you guys. Let us know what you thought about DC Titans. Help me and Matt out because it's such a show. I don't know. I keep saying it has so much potential, but we're never like taking massive steps in the right direction. I think this beginning of the season when they dropped, was it 2, 3 episodes?
The first 2 episodes were insane. They
The
were
first two
really good.
episodes were solid, and you weren't doing too much. It's like, hey, magical serial killer. Let's find the guy. Cool.
Episode
Keep it.
2, horror, just straight horror vibes right
Yeah.
before Halloween.
You kept it simple. You were doing things that made sense. You're not forcing people to take too big of a leap with the things that you're trying to do on screen. Yeah, I feel like we're spending. I don't know. They keep pushing the characters in these directions. Raven to White Raven, Beast Boy to like find these powers from the Red, and he's doing all these weird things. Rory's got these powers and she's not even scratched the surface of what she can do. Tim, they're not doing anything with Tim. Grayson, what's his arc? Like, what are you doing with his arc for Grayson? He's not doing anything whatsoever. He
No.
has some really cool arcs the first 3 seasons. Him trying to do too much by himself,
No, he was
him
just
trying
he
to
just
be too overprotective. Like those are all good great things to kind of.
he's being Bruce Wayne. I get what they're doing with him.
Mm.
He's not being Nightwing. He's being Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne was really like that with the Justice League, where he was kind of daddy, and he was dealing with a lot of people who are much more powered than him, and he was always bringing back in that human element and that human emotion, and he is doing that, but it's just not fitting in with what's going on whatsoever. My mic's gonna die. We gotta go, Ted. I
We
love you,
gotta
but we gotta go.
go. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Legacy Nerd, I see you. He says they made a comment. Luther been trying to kill Superman for 40 years, so it's got to be an older one. Yeah, I completely agree. Let's see if they do it. I'm not gonna hold my breath. I don't think they will. The episodes for DC Titans apparently don't start until next year, so we're gonna be taking a break from Titans. That means next week we're only talking about Willow. You know what, JC, if he's listening, um, oh my God, what's his show? His show is on HBO. Has returned on HBO Max. His Dark Materials has resurfaced. The season 3 premiere is out, and if I know JC, he's gonna want to talk about that starting
Well,
ASAP.
one thing that we can do as well, and anybody still left in the chat, anybody listening after we get off of the air, is there's a lot of anticipated movies for 2023. What we can do until the end of the year is send in those suggestions of what you're most excited for and what you want our takes on for the most hype movies of 2023, and then we'll go back and we'll talk about these on an episode of just saying, hey, this is what we're looking forward to here, whether it be Mandalorian season 3. We know we're getting in March. We know we're getting a lot of things next year. So let us know. We can just sort of dive into that sort of stuff and sort of an outlook for 2023 as we move forward into the holiday season. So if Ted's on board with that, I certainly am.
I am as well, and Yeah, ton of movies out. You know, we're out of we're mostly out of a COVID year with 2023. So, think the theater industry is finally going to get back to some normalcy. I think we're still seeing sort of the lasting effects of it. For example, Wakanda Forever, nearly $700 million worldwide, right? Success.
What did
Problem
Black
is,
Adam do?
I have no idea. The problem with Wakanda Forever is some of the countries that they're not doing so well in, have still are still kind of being ravaged by COVID and protocols and theaters closing
But
and
that's not real, Ted. They got to get over that. If you're still being shut down by COVID,
not
then
this
tell
country, my
people.
friend, not this country.
Well, yeah, worldwide. We're talking about the U.S., bud.
I said worldwide. Worldwide, the U.S. numbers are a little bit less than the
The
first
only
one
person in
did.
lockdown right now is China. That's it. Everybody else is living.
Now the UK, they've hit a number of what do they call them, variants? Not variants. Is it
Yeah,
variants?
but they're living. There's no regulations there. If people aren't showing up to movies, then the movies just aren't worth showing up to. But Black
Mm.
Panther is killing it because why? They developed an incredibly sacred character. They developed it really, really well. They developed a huge fan base around that. They also tied it into cultural themes in a non aggressive way that just made it a beautiful movie for everyone. And that the Black Panther should be the formula moving forward as far as if you're going to try to establish new characters. It has to be the Black Panther. It was really, really good. It was long.
Shout out to everybody in the chat today. General Kenobi's Bunker, appreciate you again for dropping off a box of toys at our toy drive on Saturday. Kevin Quinn, Paxton Christie, everybody with the South Dakota team. Rick Kane, Kevin with the Lansing Ghostbusters, and of course, Legacy Nerd. We'll be talking to you very soon, my friend. And Gunnar Barker in the chat with the joke of the night. What do you call a shoe made out of a banana? A slipper. But
Yeah, that's my cousin. That's Gunner. Anytime any conversation gets heated, Gunner completely deflects to a dad joke, and we completely appreciate it. And General
Absolutely.
Kenobi, thank you so much for those donations. I'm lighting a lightsaber for you. And again, the Ghostbusters toy drive is huge, and we'll talk about that more on Wednesday. Until then, folks, Ted, what do we say?
Thanks for watching, folks. Again, like he mentioned, be sure to tune in Wednesday to the next Ghost Heads radio show. We're going to have multiple chapters talking about their events over the weekend, and we'll provide an update, hopefully, a solid update with what we've been accomplishing as a campaign across the country. Can't wait to talk about that. Thursday, the WrestleCast is talking more about wrestling. There's a few local events happening this week. Mission Pro Wrestling has a big one on Saturday. There's also one on Sunday. They're going to be talking about those things. And we will also talk about the Ghostbusters San Antonio events that are going down this weekend. Plenty of chances to come see us and also donate to a great cause, the 2022 Ghostbusters Toy Drive. For the Geekcast, my name is Ted, aka Steady. Joining me, my partner in crime, all the way from Houston, Texas, Matty B.
Yellow Rose. I appreciate you guys for dealing with me and my microphone issues throughout this episode, but I love
Worked like a
each and
charm.
every one of you. And I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Go Says Radio.
Ghost Heads Radio. See you guys